Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and Cyberpunk 2077 just got its biggest update yet. A lot of you have been waiting patiently, and now your patience has been rewarded for that next-gen update. It is here, it is out right now for free if you already own the game on PS4 or Xbox One, so you can upgrade right now. But also, there's a ton of brand new fixes, and most importantly, for those of you who are like me and have actually finished the game, enjoyed it a lot, and wanted a bit more, there are new, wait for it, features, new mechanics, new things to do. Now, it's not a ton of quests and whatnot, but they've really restructured certain parts of the game, so we're going to highlight all of it in what will be a massive Cyberpunk 2077 news video. All this information comes from the brand new Red stream that Projekt Red just hosted, where they spent over an hour showing off update 1.5, which features a ton of new things that we're going to talk about in today's video. So finally, we got some positive stuff to talk about with Cyberpunk 2077. Admittedly, during the stream, there were certain things that weren't working, I think, as intended. Like, they were trying to show off the reactions to traffic, and cars were just driving into one another, and the game was starting to break. There were a couple of visual hiccups here or there. So I just want to warn everyone going in who are thinking that this game is polished and completely clean, there are still going to be a lot of issues. I can promise you that. In fact, with all of these new mechanics that are introduced to the game and these new features, it will likely only create more problems. But the game looks at least pretty stable from the outside looking in. I do need to dive in myself to fully say that is the case, but for a pretty transparent look at the game for over an hour running with this new update, it did look pretty solid. So if you want to try it out, it's available right now. But for those of you who are new here looking for more Cyberpunk content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing, as they finally are rolling out that next-gen version, and we can start to take a look maybe at, I don't know, DLC, like true expansions of the game. That I'm really excited for. So now, let's get into it. Starting off with the next-gen update. Again, I know a lot of you have been waiting patiently for this. Projekt Red laid out an entire chart in their favorite color, yellow, detailing the console performance overview for both PS5, Series X, as well as S. And we can see that the performance modes for each of the Series X and PS5 are at 60 FPS with 4K resolution. And then ray tracing is at 30 FPS with 4K resolution. Now, what's interesting here out of everything to me is even on performance mode for the Series S, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming in at 30 FPS. I actually imagine for a lot of you out there watching this channel, this is kind of a disappointment for you because everyone was waiting for the next gen update. It's here and you're still getting 30 on Series S. And this is supposed to be the next-gen console, right? So this was a bit surprising to me personally. I know it's the little man. I love the Series S, don't get me wrong, not disrespecting it at all. But this came in as a bit of a surprise. 1440p, 30 FPS, but I'm sure some who already own it and really want to play this game won't be complaining that it should be at least stable. Not only that, but they laid out a quick platform overview of some of the brand new features, so you can quickly see that there are new weapons, additional apartments, hairdressing mirror, a rebalancing of gameplay, all of this stuff. And all of this is mostly checked off for the respective consoles, but then you go down to improved crowd reactions, and that's something that is not going to be in the PS4 or Xbox One version. I think this is important to point out before we really dive into all of the patch notes, because this is something that really says to me that the PS4 versions and the Xbox One versions will be forever inferior. And even in the level of immersion that people are really looking for, like, that's not going to be there in those games. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be stable. That still is left to really be seen. But just know that this game is already not including some of the new features that are being added into the next-gen version of the game. They also added adaptive trigger support for PlayStation 5, so you know how it feels like when you're pressing down the trigger on the PS5 and it's really fighting against you. I'm not a crazy big fan of it, I'll be honest, but I get why a lot of people are into it. That little feedback that you get is great for some. They're actually adding support in this game for that, which is really cool to see. But now let's get into some of the new features. So one of them that they showed off were apartments, which you can see here, and they can be rented with a one-time fee where you can get a new apartment in Northside for $5,000. You can get a Japantown apartment for $15,000, which is the one they actually end up showing off. You can go to the Glen for a $40,000 apartment, and there's a Corpo apartment for $55,000. And there are some interactions within the apartment that'll provide gameplay buffs for you. There are also little immersive things like you can play a guitar now, you can turn on the record player, you can customize your appearance and tweak how you look at any point in the game thanks to the mirror inside the bathroom, so you can start changing your hair, your makeup. They've added new options for all of these, which is also something I know a lot of people have really been asking for. But this is a cool little feature because they also have a stash in all these apartments, as we already know, that is shared. Now, the idea behind this, CD Projekt Red said, was to kind of provide more role-playing, if you will. Like, if you're a corpo, go stay in the corpo plaza, right? So I respect the vision there of staying in line with role-playing, with being a certain character, living in a certain place. And honestly, with the game's economy, it's just good to have something else to spend your money on. Speaking of which, new weapons are in the game. This is something that's actually great to see because the last time they dropped, I think 1.3 was the update where they brought like a new jacket, a new car, and people were like, what is this, man? Well, they're actually bringing in new weapons. So it says, what's new at Wilson's? You can check out new items at Wilson's Second Amendment store in the Mega H10 building, or look for them while exploring Night City. There are two new weapons, the Dara Polytechnic Umbra, which is a power assault rifle, and the Budget Arms Guillotine, which is the power submachine gun. And you can actually see the guillotine during the live stream. They also added 4 new scopes, the Kang Tao Ju long scope, the Tsunami Gaki sniper scope, the Arasaka Kanatsugo short scope, and the Handyman short scope. They also added new types of weapon attachments, which are muzzle brakes. 10 new muzzle brakes, 5 for handguns, and 5 for assault rifles and submachine guns, as well as new poses in the photo mode. They highlighted this as well, saying that Johnny Silverhand in the flashback scenes will have these new poses in photo mode for you to enjoy, because a lot of people use photo mode. It helps market their game, and you know, if I'm CD Projekt Red, I'm focusing on other things, but this is why I'm not working at CD Projekt Red, because my vision does not match theirs. Anyway, I love that there are new weapons there, even if it's just 2. It's good to see that there are new weapons being added in. I know we're taking whatever we can get right now, but it's just cool to see that it's not only 2 weapons like in the last update where it was like only a car and only a jacket. It's like, okay, we got 2 weapons, we got some apartments. They also made some changes on the tech front that this is where I thought things got a little wonky in the stream. You could see how the world was supposed to react, but it wasn't continuously doing that. So they put a real big spotlight on crowd AI, not only in combat, where they say there are multiple fixes and improvements to NPC melee and range combat AI, and reactions including taking cover, positioning, reloading, equipping weapons, dodging, blocking, and many others. But really the crowd improvements were the star of the show, if you will, where they show off aggressive crowd behavior. Certain NPC archetypes can and will enter combat with the player when provoked by aiming, shooting, or fighting. Due to some technical challenges, this change is not available on previous generations of consoles. So I like that they're being transparent as to why here. They also mentioned that time skips affect the state of NPCs as well as reset the state of the devices, environments, and certain scenes, and they improve the overall crowd reactions, pathfinding, and despawning. This also carries a little bit into the driving, where they show off a all-new burnout mode where you can hold down the gas and the brake and you can start doing donuts. They added a new braking system, and engine simulation has been improved, as well as the gearbox simulation. Motorcycles have been improved, and they have tuned the improvements to various cars to overall feel better when you're driving, which is excellent news, because if you remember in older Cyberpunk videos, I was complaining a lot about how the driving felt like you were on a slip and slide. So I'm looking forward to really diving in and seeing if that has been improved. But the reason why I bring all this up is this next one here, which is vehicle traffic. It ties into the crowd behavior and the AI changes, where they say visual improvement to traffic movement, turning, and suspension. This is the big one though. Panic reaction to danger. Traffic now has the ability to drive away in panic from danger. NPC passengers can now die from car crashes. Reactions to fender benders. Vehicles now have a wider range of reactions to being bumped into and will recover and return to traffic more smoothly. So this is the one that was a little bit weird, because they tried to shoot a gun near one of the vehicles and get the vehicle to speed away and show like, look, they panic and they drive away. Sometimes they would. Other times they would pass out, like the driver would pass out. I thought that was kind of interesting. But they panic in all these different ways. At one point, they did show a panic reaction where the car literally swerved out of the lane, drove, hit another car, and stopped moving. So again, the idea is there. It's why I say that this is still a work in progress. Clearly, do not go in with the expectations that everything will be functioning perfectly as is. But this was something a lot of people were really hammering on CD Projekt Red for, was the crowd reactions, the crowd interactions in general, that they would just run away. You'd turn your back, you'd look at them, they'd be gone again. They're claiming that is a thing of the past. Now, with that, know that none of this mentions police behavior, police chases, police AI. None of that was addressed here during this stream that I was watching. So that likely will be a future update, if anything at all. And I imagine that'll be a next priority now that the crowd is reacting at least as properly as they can be, and some are actually engaging in combat with you. They also made a multitude of changes on other parts of the game. For the cyberware, there are a ton of changes to specific cyberware. The most notable one is it's now possible to sell the unused ones at a Ripper dock, so you can exchange them and get new ones. Moving on to balance, they mentioned here that there are various changes related to the economy, including increased rewards from jobs and open world activities, and decreased prices for vehicles and cyberware, which I found kind of interesting because I thought it was easy to get everything you wanted in the game. They also rebalanced and improved the functionality of clothing mods. They mentioned that the easy game difficulty is now a little bit more challenging, which I found a bit surprising. They introduced 2 new stats, replacing evasion, mitigation chance, and mitigation strength. Mitigation chance determines how often the player has a chance to reduce incoming damage. Mitigation strength determines the percentage by which the damage is reduced, which is a 50% by default. With that change, they also mentioned components that used to increase evasion now affect mitigation. For example, the reflexes attribute perks such as Mongoose, Vanishing Point, Human Shield, some clothing mods, and cyberware, and more. They rebalanced the damage over time effects, the chance to disrupt trajectory of smart bullets, and last but not least, they added a quieter way to escape the NCPD when the heat is on. Instead of fleeing a certain distance from the most recent crime scene, V can opt to hide within the search area, although it will take longer for the police to stop looking. So yes, they are changing a lot with character builds here. I think a lot of players may end up being kind of sort of displeased because they're gonna have to redo their character. What do I mean by that? Well, I know it's been a lot of reading here, but let's continue on because we got to talk about perks now, where if you go to the perk section of the patch update, they say they rebalanced various perks and moved some of them into the skill tree. As a result, all the perk points you spent were reset. Go to the perk screen to reassign your perk points for free. They redesigned Blood Swell, Human Shield, Epimorphosis, Cold Blood, Coldest Blood, and Cutthroat. They also added new perks, replacing some older ones. Due to the above mentioned changes in perks, we renamed the Stealth skill tree to Ninjutsu in order to better reflect the perks it contains. They also made the bonuses dynamic for 200% efficiency, Field Technician, and Cutting Edge. They are now applied to already crafted weapons and clothes. Respecking perks removes the bonuses correctly. So this is kind of exciting in my opinion, as someone who loves to replay these RPGs. Is like, oh, okay, cool, like we can go in and tweak our builds a little bit more. But just know that if you didn't have your build completely memorized, you're gonna have to redo all that no matter who you are, because they're saying by default that that upgrade is there. Now, if you can pause the update or something like that, make sure you can fire the game up, take note of your build, and then update it so it will all reset. You could do that, but it very well may be too late by the time you're seeing this. The UI also got some notable improvements like the map filters, various map usability improvements related to resizing icons, adding new tooltips and filters. This includes a dynamic filter based on the zoom level, as well as a custom filter, which can be configured by the players. But what I think is the more noteworthy one on a visual front is the redesigned skip time interface, which displays much more clearly what time of day you'll be moving to, and it's a lot prettier, so there is that as well. This is one of my favorite changes here. Open world. V now has standing with fixers throughout Night City. New fixer gigs will appear gradually in sets as your standing increases, and a fixer will offer you another set of gigs only after the previous set is completed in a given district. Completing all the gigs for a fixer will earn you a special reward, excluding Mr. Hands. Sorry, he just doesn't like you, Choom. To see the progress of your standing with a fixer, hover over the icon on the map screen and check the completed crowd gig. They also say that crowds and communities of Night City are more diverse during the day and at night, increased occurrences, and added more variety of conversations in all districts. This was something the game was heavily critiqued for, was you'd see 5 of the same NPC in a row. That will be something players will investigate immediately, so I hope that ends up being true. But to me, the fixer thing is awesome. because they did show like there is a completion count for each of these fixers, and then it will give you a special reward when they're done. What that reward is, we're not sure yet, because they show in the patch updates what the new weapons and attachments are. So I'm wondering if they're hiding special rewards there, or if this is something that maybe gives you not the most tangible reward, like it'll just give you money, something along those lines. But I like that they've added this as a new progression element, and it's much more digestible, would probably be the best word, because they're giving it to you in sets as you complete certain regions of the world. And there is a connection now, a stronger connection in my opinion, to the fixer, something that I thought was kind of missing there. So I do think this is a good change for the game. Now, on the tail of open world changes, they've also made adjustments to questing. One of them they teased a little bit in the live stream, saying we've added some stuff we don't want to talk about yet, and I thought, oh, they're just trying to ramp up hype. But then they actually even put it in the changelog here, saying they've added a few secrets in Night City to be discovered by players. Due to some technical challenges, this change is not available to the previous generation of consoles. Kind of reiterating what I said earlier, expect to see this a lot moving forward. I think this won't be the last of it. They also extended romances with Panam, Carrie, River, and Judy by adding new messages and interactions, so you can text them more often, get in contact with them more often, and they've even added it where you can interact with them in your own house, where they'll sleep in bed with the given partner. Also on the NCPD front, they've added the ability to mute the dispatcher, which is really nice. You can go into the settings under holo calls and turn it off. You're also able to reject non-essential holo calls, and they've improved the system to prevent multiple holo calls from coming in or stacking, which would then annoy the player a lot. And they've enhanced the Night City nightlife by making music in the clubs a little bit louder, so it's a little bit more bombastic. Overall, I think the romance changes are what excite a lot of people. I know there's a lot of Pan Am fans out there, I understand. But yeah, you can see overall that they've added extensions to things. Now, I don't think they're full-on cutscenes. They mentioned just text messages that you could send between them as your relationship builds up. And I imagine in the post, the ending of that relationship, they will appear in your house. So I thought that was actually kind of cool they put this in here. And I'm curious what these few secrets are, as I imagine people are already on top of discovering them. Given that they're under the quests, though, I imagine they are random brand new quests that CD Projekt Red doesn't want to maybe overhype. I don't know what the plan is here. This is another one that, oh my word, that CD Projekt Red get hammered for. Improved water appearance and added water interactions. Ripples and splash effects will be produced during various events like object collisions and from gunfire. If you watch the video on KevDewitt's channel where we played Crackdown 3, you'll note that we were teasing a little bit by shooting the water in Crackdown 3, a game from 2019, and going, wow, look at this. It's actually creating a splash effect, the beginning of 2019, by the way, and how Cyberpunk did not have that. So this is something that people have been waiting for a while, and it looks like they're adding it in finally. They do show off a benchmark mode for PC where you can go into the settings and hit run benchmark. While I'm showing you this, they also added a toggle walking option, which I know the community's been asking for a long time to finally include that. They also enabled transparent ray trace reflections on glossy coatings of some cars and enabled variable rate shading. This feature boosts rendering performance and visual quality by varying the shading rate for different regions of the frame. So the benchmark mode is a good way to see how the game will run when you fire it up, and they'll take you through different areas where the frame rate will be going up and down to get a good feel of what you should be running the game at. Whew, exhale. And that's pretty much it. There is more in the patch notes. This is kind of a highlight video. There are tons of underneath the hood fixes. There's tons of lines and bullet points that say, you know, fixed an issue with this, fixed an issue with that. So there is more, but these are kind of the general things that you as a player will see outside of the game, just hopefully functioning properly and not breaking before your eyes. Now, you may be looking at this going, oh my God, CD Projekt Red, this actually looks good. I want to try this out, but I don't want to give you any money. And no, that doesn't mean Game Pass is an option. They're trying a different route here, which is trials. They're allowing you to download the game, play it for 5 hours, and see if you like it. And from there, you can buy the game and then have all that progress carry over. Now, the thing that you need to know, and this is why they're not doing Game Pass yet, this trial lasts until March 15th. So get in, try it out while you can. And they're doing this at the time where we're most busy. Elden Ring impending, Horizon's looking great, and here we have finally the next-gen update for Cyberpunk. Crazy. First world problems, though. It's a good problem to have, right? Lots of awesome looking stuff to play. If you really want to test this out, like see how it functions on a technical level, now's your chance. Now indeed is your chance. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to sign out. What do you think about the latest update for Cyberpunk 2077? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to sign up and support what we're doing here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.